So how can you manage better your WhatsApp, and what are just best practices when you're training your team, when you're trying to figure out how to use conversations to increase your conversions, your sales, and just your overall results? And these are just best practices and things that you can do to improve the conversations and the overall experience that you're giving your customers and that your customer support team or your sales team is giving through WhatsApp. And I would say the first thing is stay positive. I can't, we see this a lot in users getting short replies, quick replies, and sometimes just being too harsh. And I know that you're not trying to be harsh, but it's not the same to say just a plain simple no. To saying like, no, I'm afraid that's not possible, but you could do this, or no, I'm afraid that's not possible, well, we can help you with this, right? This is something that's very important when you're training the people that are going to be managing your WhatsApp, or even if it's you that's doing it. These words can help you navigate, and just you can see the difference of negative tones to positive, right? And you want to find the balance, because you also want to be direct, and you don't want to overcomplicate your things. But the key message here is that you want to stay positive, right? It's anything else, it's kind of like you're cutting the conversation, right? Like, is there anything else I can do to help you with? And you're going to see in this lesson a couple of things that you can do to shorten messages, but also make it appealing so that you don't see that harsh when you're trying to converse with them, or holding conversations with them. You want to break up long messages, and this is a big one that we see when you're using copy paste, right? This is just an example of a restaurant that sends you, where you're trying to order. This is a whole message that you get, and this is just boring. Like, I don't want to answer all those questions. I want things to be a bit more interactive, right? Like, okay, I'll explain it. Send. Like, you can change your appointment. You need to go here. Send. Like, what's your order? Great. Like, how are you going to pay today? What's your address? Is there anything else I can help you with? You want to try to break up messages so that just the flow of the conversation is much better with your customers, and they don't feel like they have to read huge paragraphs when it's really simple questions that you're using to help them answer your questions, right? You want to be more direct, and this is a key one that's also difficult, because you want to be direct but be positive, right? When people are direct, sometimes they misunderstand this with being negative, and I give you a couple of examples here too, like the majority of, like most, a certain number of, some, in the framework of, under, like for the purpose of, in order to, like you can just say to, right? Like, you can simplify things without being negative. Like, you're still positive, but you're also being direct with customers. And emojis, I think, are key in finding that balance of positivity and being direct, right? Like, an emoji can actually really help you in simplifying and replacing the body language and tone of voice that you're not having with a conversation. Remember that when you have a conversation with someone, you can see the body language, and you can kind of read people, right? When you're talking on the phone, you can kind of hear the tone of voice and see if you're on the right track or not. But when you're on a chat, it's very easy. It's very easy for people to misinterpret what your customer support team, or what you're trying to say or tell them in the conversations. And so an emoji can really help you, you know, be direct, be positive, but also stay happy with your customers, right? Like, this is just an example of how we use them as well. In other ways in which emojis really help is highlight things that you want people to read, right? So my goal is to help you drive more WhatsApp sales for your business. Here's the link. Important, right? Like, I use these red dots, like these pins, these red pins, so that people say like, oh, I need to read this. If you look at this, like, this is something that most people will read. And so you can use emojis to highlight things as well, and find that balance of being direct, being positive, staying positive, but allowing your customers to just not misinterpret what your support team is trying to tell them. One of the things that I would recommend here as well is you want to mix emojis with text. You don't want to just use emojis, like so that again, like it's very easy for things in a conversation to get misrepresented. Like people can read different things from different emojis, right? So you always want to make sure that you have an emoji with the text in place so you can find that balance, and also like use it in a reasonable amount, right? You just don't want to overuse emojis all the time and constantly, but find the balance with the conversations that you're having. Quick replies, and this is a big one that we see a lot of customers that we work with that don't necessarily use. Like you want to really leverage your quick replies in order to improve the speed of response time and minimize misspelling. Sometimes you're copying, pasting, you make mistakes, or you're changing the tone of a conversation that your brand or the way you communicate and how you want your customer support team or your sales team to communicate. You want to use quick replies so that's easier, it's quicker, you're consistent with the conversations that you're having, and it's also easier to type the slash in the letter than to copy and paste and go back and forth between, especially when you're just on your phone. If it's on a computer, it's a bit easier, but even if you are on the computer typing that ash like letter, it's quicker than just using a copy and paste. So make sure you leverage quick replies and you have a system in place. We're going to give you some examples depending on the industry that you're in so that you can use with the quick replies in order to have better response to your customers. I can't, this is the most important one. You want to really show and train your team to use labels. This is, I would say at this point, the best thing that you can do to manage your conversations better, provide a better experience to your potential or current customers as well. And it's going to help your team just stay organized. One of the biggest challenges that we see with WhatsApp is that you have a change of personnel, a change of shift, and then no one really knows like who do they have to follow up with, who they don't have to follow up with. Is this opportunity still open? Is this conversation still open? What conversations are important? Labels give you a process that works, and a process that's going to help you, help your team say like, oh, I'm going to start with conversations that are important, of tickets that are still open, of customers, right? I want to protect my customers. I want to make sure that my customers are happy. I want to then make sure that leads that are important, that I follow up with them, because if an appointment is closed, I want to make sure that they come back. And the same thing with opportunities. Like, are there any opportunities that I need to prioritize? So labels give your customer support team or salespeople a schedule and also priorities before they start their shift. It gives them a better way to plan their days. And so make sure you use labels when you're training teams and have a process in place. You can do everything, but if you don't have a process in place, then it can get just messy. Share what you're doing, and this is the last thing that's really important. And I've had this experience as well. When you're chatting with people, like, you don't really know if they're working on your issue, right? Like, they say like, great, but then I don't know what you're doing. Are you looking for my order? Are you talking to your manager? Are you following up? Let them know what you're doing, and sometimes how long it's going to take. Sometimes we forget that, looking for or processing certain things for customers take a while. Like, it's not immediate. People on WhatsApp think that you can solve things immediately, and you have to find a balance there, and you have to be able to open and say like, hey, I'm working on this. It's going to take us at least 10 to 15 minutes. We'll get back to you once things are ready or once things we solve. But tell them what you're doing. Explain to them what to expect when you're trying to solve something for them, and that's going to improve just the overall experience that you're giving to your customers and in your chats as well. And keep it simple. If I have to summarize things that we've learned so far when we use WhatsApp and we help companies use WhatsApp, is one, try to use, keep it simple in a way that you're direct, you're positive, you're using emojis to find that balance. Use your labels, right? Like, labels, I know they can be confusing, but if you have a process in place and you follow this process, it works. It works in organizing your team, giving better experience, better overall results that you're going to get with all the effort that you're putting. I know that WhatsApp can be challenging. Sometimes it's scary to open up a new channel, but this is a way in which you can keep your WhatsApp simple. You can use it in a way that you get results and you can organize your team. So follow these best practices to get the best results from your WhatsApp, and let me know if it works.